Hi guys, I love your smile. Your smile is loved. Keep smiling. Well, if you had paid attention to the sentences that I just used, you're able to immediately recollect that it's the voice, right? I love your smile, active voice. Your smile is loved, passive voice. That's what we're going to focus on in this video. Alright, active passive voice rules. Now most of us have a tendency to get confused between direct indirect speech and active passive voice. We have a separate video for direct indirect speech. In this video, we will take time and look at what are the rules that we need to register so that it becomes easier for us to identify the form that we need to look out for while choosing our answer option. Now we're going to look at all three tenses, present tense, past tense and future tense, and we're going to look at all the four forms of each of those tense. What are the four forms? If you've gone through the verbs and tenses video under basic grammar for reference, you'll know what I'm talking about. So I'm referring to the present tense, the simple present tense, then the continuous tense, then the perfect tense and the perfect continuous tense. So we look at all the four forms in all those three tenses, right? So let's get started. I've put down the framework for you to make it easy for you to understand. I've also conjugated the verb right there towards my extreme left, right? And the first tense that we're going to look at is simple present tense. So let's read our question. These days, most of the students do their assignments with the help of the internet. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is identify the subject and the object. Let's identify the subject. These days, who? Most of the students. So that's my subject, right? Do is my verb. Do what? Their assignments. That's the object, right? With the help of the internet is my prepositional phrase, additional information. Fine. So let's look at our structure. So if the active voice has subject plus verb 1 and then SES is the suffix of the verb and object, if I have to convert that into a passive construction, my object becomes my passive subject, right? So it starts with the object, then is, am or are, and then verb 3, which is the past participle, and then by, and then the subject. Okay. So we've identified the subject, we've identified the object, we know the verb, and the conjugation of the verb is do, did and done. So what do I need to look for? I need to ensure that the sentence, my answer option, starts with the object, the assignments. I need to look out for if do is changed to done, right? These are the two things that I need to look out for, and I have to see if it matches this particular form. So let's look at it. So in order to save time, what I will do is quickly eliminate wrong answer options, right? I'll just look at the beginning and I'll see anything that doesn't start with the assignments, I'm going to eliminate, which is what, let's look at option A. It says, these days most of the students, I have the subject again, out. These days assignments, okay, I have the object, I'm going to retain that. These days the assignments, I have the object, I'm going to retain that. Option D, these days most of the assignments. Though I have the object, if you look at the meaning, it's changed, right? The meaning is most of the students. The source question is not talking about most of the assignments. It just says the assignments. So since the meaning is changed, I'm going to quickly eliminate option D as well, right? Are you following? You with me so far, right? So we have to choose between B and C. Let's look at it. These days, assignments are being done. I don't need this being, right? It's not a continuous tense. We're talking about simple present tense, out. That leaves us with option C. These days, the assignments, which is my object right here, are, that's the form I need, done, verb 3, that's also there, with the help of the internet by most of the students. By, and then I have my subject, right? Does it meet the form? Yes, it meets the form, and this is our answer option, option C. So the idea is for you to be familiar with this form, right? the more you practice, the more the form is going to register. So you'll know exactly what to look for and identify wrong answer options quickly, saving time. Let's move on to our second tense, which is the simple past tense. The simple past tense. Let's look at our question. The judge ordered the murderer to be hanged, right? So who ordered? The judge. Subject. Ordered is our verb. The murderer. Ordered whom? The murderer. Object. To be hanged, right? So now that we've established the subject, verb and the object, notice that active voice says subject plus verb to plus object. And if you look at the conjugation of the verb order, we have verb 1 order, simple present tense, verb 2 ordered, simple past tense, and verb 3 past participle is also ordered. Okay, so keep that in mind. So now this is in verb 2, right? So there's not much change between the verb as such, but we need to make sure that the passive voice starts with the object, which is the passive subject, the murderer. So if you look at A and C, it starts with the order was given, it was ordered by, which I can quickly eliminate. I have B and D, which is starting with the object, the murderer, the murderer. So let's see if it is following, which one of these options is following the form or the structure, right? So the murderer was to be hanged. Now here it says was or were plus verb 3, but here there is a to be which is introduced, which is not what we need, right? So in fact it's not even the right verb, right? It says to be hanged, which is the prepositional phrase, comes in here according to the order of the judge. So it's completely different from the form or the structure that we need. Let's look at D. The murderer object was verb 3 ordered by the judge, who is the subject, to be hanged. Now this option D meets our required form. So option D is the answer, right? The murderer object was verb 3 by the judge, subject, to be hanged. Does it meet our form? Yes, it does, right? And that would be the answer. Let's move to simple future tense. Simple future tense. Let's look at our active voice, subject plus will plus shall plus verb 1 plus object, and when you change that to passive, it's object plus will or shall, the same verbs, plus be plus verb 3, the same modal verbs, plus be plus verb 3 plus by and plus subject. Now let's look at our question. We shall write a novel. Okay, so let's see if this meets the requirement. So who shall write the novel? We, subject, shall, okay, write is our verb, write what? Object, novel, right? So this is in active voice. We'll have to choose the passive voice from the given options, right? Now if you look at the passive voice, everything starts with a novel, and then I have will, would, and then I have, we don't have the modal here, will or shall. So quickly what I can do is I can safely eliminate option D, right? And I can also eliminate option C because it has to take up will or shall, but I have a would here. I'll have to choose between A and B. A novel will be, okay, so I have the object, will is there, be is there, write, wrote, written, right? Write is verb 1, wrote is verb 2, written is verb 3. So that's correct by us. Seems to be like option A is our answer, but let's take a quick look at option B. A novel will have been. So this is an incorrect structure, incorrect form that does not follow what we need. So I will eliminate option B and the answer is option A. A novel will be written by us. So we've covered the simple tense, present, past and future. We're going to move on to the continuous tense now. Present continuous tense. Let's look at active voice. Subject plus is, am or are, and then verb 1 plus the ing form of the verb and the object. So if I am converting that into a passive, object plus is, am, are plus being plus verb 3 plus by and then the subject. So let's look at our question. Ratan is performing an experiment. Okay, so who is performing? Ratan. Subject is verb plus ing, an experiment. Performing what? Object, an experiment. Right? So obviously we'll need to have the passive voice starting with an experiment, which we have in A, B and C, but D starts with experiments were performed. But let's see, since it still has the object, we are looking at one experiment, remember, and not multiple experiments. It's not a plural subject, but it's a singular subject. So I can quickly eliminate option D. Out of A, B, C, let's see which one of this gives us the required form. A, an experiment is, and I don't have being, right? So I can eliminate option A. B, an experiment was performed. I have is, am, are and not was, so B also is eliminated, and we are left with only C. An experiment is being performed, verb 3, perform, performed, performed, right? Verb 3 is also there, by, our subject is also there, right? So object is being verb 3 by subject. Is that the form that we need? Yes. Okay, so our answer is option C. So it becomes pretty simple when you have a framework to fall back on, right, in terms of this is the form that I need to look for in the context. Let's move on to our second continuous tense, which is the past continuous tense. Past continuous. Let's look at our active voice. Subject plus was or were plus verb 1, the ing form of it, plus the object. The passive voice is object plus was or were plus being plus verb 3 by and then the subject. Okay, the laborers were digging a canal, right? So who were digging? The laborers. Subject, plural subject, so were, digging, verb plus ing form, and then canal is the object. So this is our verb 1 plus ing, right? We're digging. So obviously we have to start with a canal, which is what is there in all of the options, but we just need to make or look for the rest of the form. Was or were plus being plus verb 3. So if you look at A, it says is. It doesn't say was or were. I can quickly eliminate option A. Option B, a canal was, but then there's no being, so I can quickly eliminate option B. C, a canal was being dug by the laborers. Seems like our best fit, but let's quickly look at option D as well. A canal had been dug is not the form that we need. So our answer option is A. If you notice the conjugation of the verb dig, I have dig, dug, dug, and sometimes it's also, you will also come across digged, D-I-G-G-E-D, right? But dug is what is usually or commonly used, right? Dig, dug, dug. Okay, just so you know. So even if you have dig, don't get confused. Make sure that it is following the right form, right? I don't have was or were. We're talking about past continuous and not present continuous. So that's why we eliminated option A, even though digged was there. Okay. Following, so a canal. So we have the object, which is our passive subject, was being dug, verb 3 by the subject, and therefore option C is our answer. Let's move on to our next tense, which is the future continuous. Future continuous, let's look at the active voice form. subject plus will, shall plus be plus verb 1, the ing form, and then the object. Passive voice, object plus will, shall plus be plus being, and then the verb 3, and then by and the subject. So let's look at our question. They will be playing badminton this time. Who will be playing? They. So that's our subject. Will be verb 1 plus ing form. They will be playing what? The object badminton this time. Additional information, time reference, right? So now we'll have to look at which of the option, when we convert it to a passive voice, meets this form. So I have the badminton, badminton, badminton this time. Let's just go one after the other. Option A, the badminton will be, and then I don't have being, nor do I have verb 3, but I don't have being, right? And the badminton sounds a little awkward. Option A out. Option B, badminton, which is our object, which becomes the passive subject, will be being verb 3 played, play, played, played, verb 3 played by them, the subject, this time. Looks like option B meets the form, but let's look at option C and D. Option C, badminton shall been played. I have been here, incorrect. This time they will be being played badminton, doesn't make sense at all, grammatically incorrect altogether. So our answer option is B, right? Badminton, the object, will be being played by subject this time. Okay, so our answer is option B. So we've completed the continuous part of it. Now we're going to move on to the perfect tense. Present perfect tense, past perfect tense, and future perfect tense. Present perfect tense. Let's look at our active voice form. Subject plus has or have plus verb 3 and then object. Passive voice, object plus has or have plus been plus verb 3 and then by and subject. Our question, my father has promised a bicycle. Who has promised? My father, he is the subject. Has, verb 3, promised me a bicycle. So if you look at it, a bicycle is a direct object, me is the indirect object, right? What did he promise? A bicycle. To whom? To me. So let's leave this as the object. So let's look at option A. I, me, right? Object, I have, right? That's the form that we know. It's not I has, it's I have. I have been, okay, verb 3 again, and then the a bicycle, right, by my father. So I have the subject here. So seems like this is our best fit, but let's look at other options as well. I have been promised, okay, by my father a bicycle. It doesn't sound right, right? I have been promised what? A bicycle. So I'll eliminate option B. I have promising. I don't need the ing form in the passive construction, so eliminate. I promised a bicycle by my father is illogical. It's incorrect, right? So our answer has to be option A. So note verb 1 promise, promised, promised. So I think option A meets the form correctly, right? Let's move on to past perfect tense. Past perfect tense. Active voice, subject plus had plus verb 3 plus object. Passive voice, object plus had plus been and then verb 3 and then by and subject. So the question is, he had eaten dosa for breakfast. So who had eaten dosa? He, our subject, had, verb 3, dosa, which is our object, for breakfast. Okay, so let's look at the conjugation for the verb eat. Verb 1 eat, verb 2 ate, verb 3 eaten, past participle. So we need verb 3 again, right? just the inclusion of been along with had. So if you look at option A, it says was eaten. I don't need was, I need had. I will eliminate option A. Option B, he ate dosa for breakfast. Again, I need had been. It's just simple past tense. I don't need that. The dosa has been. We are referring to past perfect tense and not present perfect tense. So has been is incorrect again. So that leaves us with only option D. Dosa, which is our object, had been, following the construction verb 3, by him, who's our subject, for breakfast, meets the needed form. And that is our answer option as well. Let's move on to future perfect tense. Future perfect tense. Active voice, subject plus will or shall, and then have verb 3 and object. Passive voice, object plus will or shall plus have plus been, and then verb 3 by and subject. Our question is, she will have completed her assignment. Who will have completed? She, our subject. Will, have, and then verb 3 completed. If you look at the conjugation for complete, we have verb 1 complete, verb 2 completed, verb 3 completed, past participle. Her assignment, her what? This is our object. So we'll have to look at the option that starts with the assignment, of course. So I have the assignment, the assignment, the assignment, and then D is a little different. It says completion of the assignment, which cannot be the case because complete is our verb. So I can quickly eliminate option D immediately. Let's look at A, B, and C. The assignment, which is our, the object becomes a passive subject, and then I have will, have, been, and then verb 3 by the subject, her. Right? Seems to be meeting the required form. Let's quickly look at option B and C as well. Option B says the assignment was completed. Incorrect. The assignment shall be completed again is incorrect. Right? I need have been, which is not there. So our answer option is A. The assignment will have been completed by her. Right? So that brings us to the end of the perfect tense. We're going to move on to the perfect continuous tense. Present perfect continuous. Let's look at the active voice form. Subject plus has or have plus been, and then the ing of the verb 1 plus object plus since, for or for, and then time. So when you convert that into passive voice, you have the object, and then you have has or have plus been plus being, because it's continuous tense, and then you have verb 3 by subject, and then since or for, and then the time expression. Right? So let's look at our question. She has been cleaning the kitchen for 2 hours. Okay? So who has been? She, our subject. Has been cleaning, verb 1 plus ing. Has cleaning what? Our object, the kitchen. And then for, and then the time reference, 2 hours. Okay. So when we convert that into passive, we're looking at the kitchen being the starting point. And if you look at all the option has that. So let's go option by option. A, the kitchen has, singular subject, singular verb, has been, being cleaned, that's verb 3, clean, cleaned, cleaned, verb 3 by her, the subject, for, and then the time reference. Seems to be matching the form that we have. Let's take a quick look at the remaining options as well. Option B, the kitchen has been cleaned. Being is missing, out. The kitchen was cleaned, incorrect, out. The kitchen was being cleaned, again I don't need was. So our answer is option A. The kitchen, our object, has been, being cleaned, verb 3 by her, our subject, for 2 hours, time reference, for or since, and then 2 hours. Right? So that would be the answer for this question. Let's move on to past perfect continuous tense. Past perfect continuous tense, let's look at the active voice form. Subject plus had, right? For present it was just has or have, for past it's had, and the rest of it remains the same. Been, verb 1 plus ing, the ing form of it, object, since, for, and time reference. Passive voice construction, object plus had plus been plus being plus verb 3, and then you have by, subject, since, for, or time. Let's look at our question. He had been washing the car since morning. Who had been? He. Subject. Had been, verb 1 plus ing form. Washing what? The car, our object. Since morning. Okay. So obviously we have to have the car, the object being the passive subject, right? And in fact all of our options give us that, the car, the car, the car. Let's look at which one meets the required form. The car, I have has. This is past perfect continuous tense, so out. The car had, correct, been, being, washed, verb 3, wash, washed, washed, okay. And then I have by him, our subject, since morning. So seems like this could be our right answer. Let's quickly look at C and D too. The car was being, incorrect. The car was washed, incorrect, right? So our answer option is option B. The car had been being washed, verb 3, by him, our subject, since morning. And that's our answer. Let's move on to future perfect continuous tense. Future perfect tense. Let's look at the active form construction. Subject plus will or shall, and then have plus been, and then the verb 1 ing form of it, object, and then since or for, and then the time. The passive construction is obviously object, and then we have will or shall plus have plus been plus being plus verb 3, and then by the subject, and then since or for, time. Let's look at our question. They will have been writing a novel for 2 months. Who will have been? They, our subject. Will have been, verb 1 plus the ing form. They will have been writing what? Our object, a novel, for 2 months. For, and then the time reference. So a novel is how it has to start. So if you look at all the options, I do have that. Let's look at option A. The novel is being written. The form is will or shall, and then have been being, so out. B. A novel will have, I don't have been. I do have being written, but then I don't have been, B-E-E-N, out. C. A novel will have been, I don't have being. It's a continuous form, right? So out. A novel will, so our novel is the object, will, yes, have, yes, been, yes, being, yes, verb 3, written, write, wrote, written, by them, our subject, for 2 months. So our answer option is option D. It meets the required passive construction. Okay, so this brings us to the end of all the 4 tenses, right? We looked at simple tense, we looked at continuous tense, we looked at perfect tense, and we looked at perfect continuous tense in all 3, which is present tense, past tense, and future tense. Now we're going to look at is it different with modals, or what about negative, or what about imperative sentences, or what about interrogative sentences, right? So we're going to look at how the form changes from active to passive in all these cases. Stay with me.